created a not-for-profit entity. We issued debt. And through the issuing of that debt, we had the dollars for this not-for-profit entity to buy Ohio's liquor program. And we know, and we use the proceeds from the liquor program to pay off the bonds, plus it gives us about $100 million plus for economic development. The only risk to the bonds is if people stop drinking. And what I figured out is, you know, in good times they drink, and in bad times they drink more. So we have now this thing called Jobs Ohio. Now, who have we filled it with? We've actually filled it with people that actually understand business. We have, for example, a guy who runs Jobs Ohio who's a financial, financial services expert. I mean, he can sit down with Jamie Dimon and talk about anything in the area of banking. The same is true with the insurance industry. He knows all these things. We have an expert in energy. You know, Ohio's on the forefront of the shale gas revolution. We just were able to locate a foreign entity, both PTT and Marubeni, to build a cracker facility in our state. They're in the early stages of doing that because we have energy experts. We have people who are experts in healthcare. So in other words, we have people in this entity who are not civil servants, who can get paid a little bit more money, who get young people excited about being involved in changing the world, and that's exactly what we're doing. So in Ohio, we are now up 340,000 jobs. We were down 350,000 before I came in. But the key now is we're diversifying the business of Ohio. You think about Ohio, you think cows, agriculture, steel, okay? We got all that. But now we have cloud computing, and we're becoming very robust. Financial services no longer what we saw in the Jimmy Stewart movie. You all know financial services. Now we're worried about being hacked. We are experts now, growing experts in the medical field, including medical devices. We are diversifying Ohio. Energy, advanced energy, plastics, polymers, all those things. See, Ohio is changing its face because we have now figured out how to target the industries of the 21st century, coupling them with the industries that have been traditional, a part of Ohio's DNA. They didn't want to do this. This was very, very hard to sell. Why did I do it? They don't like me. I'll be disappointed, but it's not going to keep me from trying, so we got it done. Secondly, our turnpike. Now you're going to say, what does that have to do with anything? We have a road that goes from the entire north of Ohio. I found out that people were actually married to their spouses and married to this road. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. There should be laws against this. Our turnpike is like an independent country. It was applying for membership in the United Nations. Nobody controlled anything. The road was falling apart, and it had great value. So I came out and said, you know what? This is really not smart. We should extract the value from our turnpike and use it to advance our infrastructure. And people went absolutely crazy. The Cleveland Plain Dealer wrote that this was the end of John Kasich, which wouldn't have been bad. I could have worked on my golf game. But so we went out and we told the people what we were going to do. So guess what we did? We went out again, issued debt. We retired the debt from the tolls that are paid on the turnpike, and people who live and use the turnpike all the time are held harmless, and it produced $1 billion in extra revenue, and Ohio has the most robust road construction infrastructure program in Ohio history. Now, people didn't want to do this. But you know, I don't have the fear of somebody's going to yell or polls or focus groups, so that's entrepreneurship in the government. We privatized at least one of our prisons. Then when we privatized it and the people that owned the prison didn't produce, we went up and beat the living daylights out of them until they became quality. So sometimes you have to stay on top of things. The Straight A Fund, we put $100 million into K through 12 education to get the schools to do things that were innovative and different, where they could save money but at the same time improve education. This program has been enormously successful. And to give you one example, we brought all these folks who have been recipients of this Straight A Fund innovation grants to the Capitol. And I had a 10-year-old girl walk up to me along with an 11 and 12-year-old, and they're tugging on my coat, and they say, Mr. Governor, would you come over and take a look at the 3D printing machine that we built? Now, I got a 10-year-old girl talking to me about 3D printing that she built. If that's not exciting, I don't know what is, because we're unleashing her potential. She'll probably build a better search engine someday. I don't know, Eric, if that can be done. Payment reform. Here's what we're doing now. You'll find this interesting. I gave a couple $1 million to our children's hospitals to work together. To work together, that was the condition. You work together to solve a problem. They took up 2 issues. One is treating child asthma, keeping kids out of the hospital. Secondly, dealing with the problem of drug-infected babies. Do you know how many babies end up in our hospitals who are born addicted to drugs? What a horrible situation. But anyway, on the asthma side, the children's hospitals came together and figured out a way to change the protocols to keep children healthy without having to go into the hospital. Well, when they don't go in the hospital gets less revenue. But the insurance company has larger profits. So guess what? We've struck a deal where the insurance companies and the providers share the benefits. That's the key to health care in America. The key to health care in America is to keep people healthy and get all the people involved in the stream to say, if we keep people healthy, there's savings, and with those savings come the benefit of everybody to gain. Everybody can win. It's a win-win. Plus, us, the patient, we're healthier. And that involves transparency. You know, you're a lot more likely to ask your rabbi or your minister what they get paid a year than you are willing to find out what it costs for a medical procedure today. But we believe there's a way to get this done. And if the people don't want to cooperate, we'll put the pressure on them to get them to cooperate. You see, what it gets down to is no fear. Now, in the private sector, here's the thing you need to know. If you have 10 investments, and one of them happens to be Facebook, you're a king or a queen in the private sector world. If you're in government and you have 9 successes and 1 failure, you're a bum. Because what the media will focus on is your failure. They will never talk about your success. So in order to be entrepreneurial in the government, you can't worry about popularity. You just got to worry about fixing things and getting things together. Now, finally, before Gloria comes up here, centralization in most cases is not good. Let me tell you about this town. We found out one day that we thought we had a nurse who had Ebola. Panic hit my staff. I went down to the office and said, look, everybody stay calm. Called the head of HHS. I got voicemail. Modern invention. I then called the head of the CDC, and I got voicemail. So finally, and I'm in the middle of a crisis, right? I'm getting voicemail. So finally, the head of HHS, who's a lovely lady, calls me back and says, wow, what's going on? What can we do for you? I said, could you call the guy at CDC and ask him to phone me? So about a half an hour later, the phone rings. It's the guy. He says, well, what can I do for you? I said 2 things. One is I need somebody who's a contact expert. I need to know who this nurse may have touched in her stay in Akron so we can figure out how to isolate people and treat them appropriately. And secondly, I need your team to come out here and get on the ground and start helping us. This is about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. At 7 o'clock, I'm in a meeting, and I turned to my staff. I said, how's the CDC team? What time are they getting here? They said, well, they're in Atlanta, and they don't know how to get a flight to Columbus, Ohio, so they're thinking about coming tomorrow. So we sent an airplane and picked them up and brought them into Ohio. Is that what we expect out of our federal government? If you wanted, it used to be when you wanted to go visit the White House, you had to get a pass. Now you just jump over the fence. I mean, we've got a Veterans Administration that's not functioning. And this is not political or partisan, this is just the facts. And you take on top of that the fighting that goes on between both parties on all these issues. That's why there are more 18-year-olds that believe they'll see a UFO than a Social Security check. So what is the answer here? The answer is to go back and reinvent the way this whole government functions. The federal government ought to be strong where it needs to be strong. National defense, protecting our borders. I mean, we can talk about a lot of these national institutes of health, which Newt is asking to double the budgets, which I agree with. But then on so many other programs, job training, poverty, welfare. These are programs that we can manage far better at the state level, because the founders wanted us to be laboratories of change, laboratories of trying. We know in that environment some will fail. But I'm a lot better at figuring out how to train the workforce in Ohio than somebody who lives in Washington who calls me up and says, "What time is it in Ohio?" We're actually in the same, by the way, we're in the same time zone, but they don't know that. We have a welfare system that throws dad out of the home. How dumb is that? Let dad stay in the home and make a few more bucks. We have a welfare program that says that if mom gets a promotion, she loses her child care. So mom can't take a promotion. I mean, how dumb is that? So there's so many things that can be fixed at the state level if the federal government establishes goals or begins to trust the states, recognizing that some states are going to fail. And when some states fail, people can move. They can go somewhere else to live. And at the same time, we can come up with more creative and innovative ideas for our country. And I'll tell you one final thing. We can renew your interest in solving problems. Don't leave it to somebody else. Don't leave it to somebody in the government. Engage. That's how you change the world. You don't change the world by having to hit a grand slam home run, hit a home run with all the runners on base. Why don't you just get a single? Get on base. Make a change one life. That's some of what we've lost in this country. And young people, you folks, you're the ones that we got to count on to burn the flame brighter. Because we can be fantastic as a country. But right now we're losing our way. And we really have to bring it back. Because whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, a liberal, or a conservative, we're Americans before anything else. Embrace the change, have no fear, have courage, life is short, and have no regrets. How's that? That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you. Can they ask questions out here, too, at some point? I mean, if they want to? I mean,
oh, sure.